Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story TV and the Her Story podcast. This is Getrude Matshe here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your magical story with us today.
Thank you so much for having me here today, Gertrude. So my name is Juliana Carvalho. I will be 40 tomorrow. Can't believe it.
Happy
Yes, I
birthday!
think I have to dodge it a few bullets. So it's really special for me to be, like 40. It's just like almost can't believe that I made it to the 40s.
Oh, what a
Uh, I,
celebration.
I'm based in New Zealand. I'm originally from Brazil. And I have a few stories to tell. Um, I grew up in a big family full of, fun. I was all into sports and always jumping trees and doing all the silly things that kids do. Had a crazy teenager time. Poor mom. I guess all her gray hair. Yeah, I'm quite responsible for a lot of her gray hair. And when I was 19 years old, one day I started feeling unwell. A week later, I went to hospital, and in 48 hours, I was totally paralyzed. I've never been to hospital. It was really scary, and I went there walking, right? So the doctors did suspect of bacterial meningitis, so they put me in this isolation area. It was kind of a aquarium, and because it was like bacteria, I would could not receive a visitor. So I remember that I was really, really lonely, and I was really, really scared. My legs start to paralyze, so come with pins and needles. And at some point, I just start freaking out because I was so scared. I didn't want to die. And I remember that at some point I was having that near death experience, and I felt my kind of myself leaving my body, like like coming out. And then one of the nurses that came through, it was like she was the death, you know,
Mm,
to take
wow.
me to take me away. So that's why it's so special for me to be celebrating 40s tomorrow, because 20 years ago I was very, very, very close to dying. It was probably the worst 2 days of my life, the days that I was in this aquarium isolated, because I had no idea what was going on. I was really scared, and I couldn't have support from my family because they couldn't come to visit me. And everyone that would come to my aquarium would have to wear a mask and stay away. So it was really traumatizing. And but it's interesting, I have an approach to life that I truly believe that crisis means opportunity. So whenever I have a challenge in my life, I always try to, okay, let's put things into perspective. And I ask myself, what can I learn from this? Because the value of life is based on our experiences, right? That's and how we create meaning out of what happens to us. So facing death at a young age gave me a lot of perspective. It is like, I don't know if you had a near death experience, but it makes everything so clear.
Mm,
You see crystal clear what does it matter in your life when you are facing death.
mhm,
And I try to remember myself, and I try to like I end up becoming paralyzed. I didn't die, but my was that close, and the consequences of what happened to me at the end, they find out that I had a massive inflammation in my spinal cord because of lupus. I had no idea that I had lupus as well. And lupus, for those who don't know, is pretty much my immune system is fucking crazy. So whenever there's a virus, a bacteria, instead of just going as a sniper and hitting only, the virus and the bacteria, it's just go like, oh my God, and throw the A bomb, and then destroys all my cells as well,
Oh, wow.
the good cells. And that will happen with my spinal cord. But the fact that I'm now in a wheelchair is my daily reminder that I was this close to dying. So it's my daily reminder of what does really matter in life for me, because it's different for everyone. But for me, it came crystal clear. It's my family, my health, my friends. That's what matters in my life. Yeah.
Juliana, we take life so much for granted.
Oh, yeah, we do.
I had a near-death experience similar to yours, collapsing with congestive heart failure. And you're right, in those moments where you feel that you are at the end of your life, you do gain that level of clarity. And what I find fascinating about what you have done with your life thereafter, do you feel like this experience gave you back your life because you have been living life to the full? I want us to go now into this adventure that you went on, moving to the other side of the world, to New Zealand. You have become an advocate for so many injustices that we see in our society. Take us on that journey for a minute.
Yeah, so it is quite interesting. My life, I consider I have two lives in one, because it's completely two different, completely different lives that I'm going through.
Experiencing,
And I think
yeah.
it's a blessing as well. It's a blessing in disguise. From day one that I lost my movement, I was like, I'm gonna recover. I'm gonna recover 100%. And I'm really focused. I'm really determined, and I push myself really hard. At the beginning, I was quadriplegic, so I couldn't do anything like brush my hair or brush my teeth or even blow my nose, and those pretty basic
Basic
stuff.
things, yeah.
Yeah, or feed myself. And this finger moved first, and then from this hand was this finger, and I recovered my arms, and I relearned how to do everything. And I was really, really focused in walking again for 8 years. And I was like truly believing that I would achieve the biggest challenge of my life, to walk again. I decided that I would achieve whatever I dream about. Then I created a TV show. I ended up writing a book to share my story in the hopes of helping other people going through similar situation. The book sold, was the best selling. Everything that I imagined or that I wanted, I was kind of, I will get it because I know that I'm going to walk again. And that's my biggest challenge. And I was in this journey, but after publishing the book, I received an email of a mother of a young girl. Her name was Bruna. She was 9 years old. And her mom said to me, please, can we arrange a meeting so my daughter can meet you, like can have a woman in a wheelchair for her to look, and see that it is possible to work and to do things, to be a role model for that child that was disabled. And that changed everything. From that day on, I was just like, I'm using all my energy, passion, drive to walk again. And I can put down all that, that energy and drive and focus into something else, something bigger than me, to fight for the rights for persons with disabilities.
Right.
And I feel like I have a kind of a responsibility, because I have lived half of my life, or my first life, in a position of privilege, a privilege that everyone that doesn't have impairments take for granted. And when I lost my movement and I became a person with a disability, I lost so many rights that I took for granted, just like this. And just because of the fact that now I use a wheelchair and I can't move my body. And that's mind blowing when you see the difference the attitude people have towards you, the places that you can no longer go, the assumptions that people have about your ability to be productive. And I just feel that because I experience both worlds, both perspectives, I need to fight because I want to be treated with the same respect that I was treated before. Yeah.
Wow. And that can just change in a heartbeat. 1 minute you're okay, the next minute it's gone.
Yeah.
We're going to pause here for just a second. We're going to have a little commercial break. And when we come back, let's talk about New Zealand and the amazing things that you're doing in this part of the world.
Sure.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Getrude Matshe here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. Like I said, the Her Story movement is attracting some of the most phenomenal women on the planet. I am so excited to have met you, Juliana, because your story is a ball of light, a story that can ignite a fire in somebody who is sitting in a hospital room right now thinking, what am I going to do with my life next? Like I said, what you have done with your life is pretty phenomenal. I don't think you even realize the magnitude of what that is. Take us through the journey of how you came to New Zealand, the challenges you've experienced in New Zealand, and what you've done about it.
Cool. Oh, well, New Zealand. New Zealand. I love this place. I love this country. I felt a deep connection with New Zealand when I came here in 2012 on holiday to visit my siblings that were living here. And I won't deny that I felt like, wow, I found a place that is perfect, that is ready. Because as a tourist, I had the privilege of traveling all over New Zealand, and there was always accessible restaurants, also accessible places, accessible hotels. In Auckland downtown, there were no holes in the pathways. In Brazil, it's like you were in a war zone, really.
Yeah.
And there's very few restaurants that are, wheelchair friendly. So I was like, oh my God, I'm organizing protests and, doing all that advocacy work back in Brazil for better outcomes for disabled people. What if I just move to New Zealand and I just, get on with my life, don't have to worry about it anymore, and go to a place that is perfect, that is ready. And in my mind, I thought that I would never face discrimination again. Because back in Brazil, I had several, situations where, for example, the taxi driver just say, "Nah, not taking the wheelchair. It's gonna damage the bank seat," or, those kind of things.
Yeah.
And I thought I would never face discrimination again. So I came to New Zealand full of energy. 2012, 2 months later, I set the IELTS, score 7.5. Then 1 month later, I got a job at the Health and Disability Commission, like a role with national scope, have a window that I could see the sea through the building, Queen Street. Everything was like, yeah, got this, like I was on top of my game. Then I apply under the skilled migrant category. And back then I had 175 points and you need just 100 to qualify. But I stumble in the health requirement because the current immigration policy says that you have to have an acceptable standard of health. And they have a list of conditions that are deemed to impose high cost on the system. And if you have any of those conditions, and lucky me, being paraplegic and having lupus are both in the list, immigration policy says your residency visa must be denied unless you have an exemption. from the health requirement, which
Right.
is called the medical waiver. The medical waiver will put in a scale, okay, you have this condition that is likely to cost this much. And on the other hand, they will check your ties to New Zealand, your potential contribution to the country, and the level of cost you might impose to the system. I thought I had a chance, really, because family here, I was already in full-time employment. I have a track record of my very successful career in Brazil to show
Mm-hmm.
my potential contribution to the country. And my lupus was stable for the past 10 years. And I had already done my rehabilitation, so I knew how to live independently in a wheelchair. Like
Right.
I drive, I don't need help to get dressed, I don't need help to have shower. So I'm independent despite of being in a wheelchair. So I thought I had a chance. I was so wrong. And my battle with immigration in New Zealand was several years. I had the medical waiver denied twice. Then I decided to do a deliberate act of civil disobedience because after the second time my residency was denied. After that, my work visa was denied, and I say I'm not going anywhere. I start to I start to research about the civil rights movement, and I like Rosa Parks, and when she said that she wouldn't give the seats to the white man,
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, I'm not giving the seat. I won't give the seat. If I have to be deported, I will be deported, but then I will come back because it wasn't just about immigration and it wasn't just about me. It's not like I'm just a stubborn migrant. It is about this whole narrative that if you have a disability, your potential cost to the system will never be outweighed by your contribution.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what needs to change. So what have I done? I create a petition using my story as a vector for transformation, calling for the immigration policy change. I got nearly 35,000 signatures, and I delivered this petition to the parliament, and it's now being appreciated. They are considering everything, and I was so yeah, it was funny. Like it was all over the news, and then I was facing deportation, so I had to leave unlawfully, as I said, as an act of civil disobedience for
Yes.
6 months, where I couldn't work, I couldn't leave the country, like because otherwise it would never allow me back in. I have to live on my savings. It was very interesting time because bottom line, I was unlawful because of my disability.
Yeah.
How crazy is that? Like we are
That
in
is
2021, you know? It's just like it's mind blowing that this kind of policy still is out there. And
But
it's
you took this on like a bull. You were not giving
not a
up.
bull. You know what? I
You
have this image since I end up in this wheelchair at the beginning, like I had to learn how to do everything, right? So
mm,
really basic stuff like grab a zipper and open the zipper, or push my wheelchair. So I always have this image whenever I have a challenge, I have this image of a really strong, furious rhino, a rhino with a tough skin, that doesn't matter how
yes.
hard is the obstacle, I just will keep pushing through, you know. The rhino
Wow.
is really strong. And that image, I just put my horn down and I go against the obstacle, like bring it. I love a challenge. The rhino really loves a challenge. And
An
and that's what
incredible
I
story.
I use that power, the visual power of the
Yes.
rhino to just keep going.
The
It
rhino
doesn't matter
became
how hard.
your totem animal.
Yeah,
So I've
yeah.
got two more questions to ask you before we finish this interview. You took on the system. What did you succeed in? What did you achieve? And where do you see yourself 100 years from now? When all is said and done, what will the world look like because you were here?
Oh, that's very, very amazing questions. What I achieved, well, I finally managed to get the residency under ministerial. I had a ministerial intervention. And after that, I keep pushing, getting signatures. And now with the petition under consideration in the select committee, there is a real possibility for change. And that will be amazing because my case was very public. I've been receiving lots of inquiries, and I've been helping a lot of people behind the scenes that are going through similar situation. You
Okay.
have really heartbreaking stories. For example, a couple that came here, they were in the work to residency visa. She got pregnant, they had the baby here. The baby started to present developmental delays, and then immigration wants to kick them away because the kid that was born here has a disability, and think of kids with disabilities growing up with this message, that you a burden, you a burden, you a burden. At some point, you start to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very proud that my story might contribute to this change in the policy, and that
Mm-hmm.
will have a huge effect, not only with immigration, but that's one last systemic discrimination that we remove away from. It's another barrier that we take away from
Yes.
people with disabilities.
Oh, I love it.
And I'm
I
writing
love
another
it.
book. I'm writing another book that will be called Unlawful,
Okay.
because I really want to share the hardest part for me. And so the two big lessons from all of this crazy story. One is that we live in our minds, right?
Yes.
This systemic discrimination that I was horrible for many years. At some point, I start to believe that maybe I
Mm.
wasn't worthy, and maybe I shouldn't be here. And life is a mind game, you know.
Mm.
It's all about how do you react to what happens to you.
Yes.
And it's about as well being mindful, when you are heading to that low vibrational state, when you are just like you're feeling sorry for yourself. that's
Yeah.
that's a no. And that requires to be present when you notice that you're heading through a negative path,
Yes.
because at the end of the day, what matters is how we react, what you choose to signify.
Yeah.
you know
So we've
there's a
always got a choice when life is throwing these rocks at us.
Yeah.
Is how you choose to react and respond to those challenges that really matters.
Yeah. And you see, one of the lessons is that to believe you have no choice, it
Mm-hmm.
is a choice in itself,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing is impossible in this world. If you look around you, everything that surrounds us, except for the nature, it was at some point an idea on someone's head.
Somebody's head. Yes.
And
Yes.
then you manifest. So I use a lot of visualization
Okay.
to achieve whatever I want in my life. And
So
that
let's
was
let's take
another.
you now to the future. Tell me, what do you
Yeah,
see in the future based
I
on what
know
you're
that
doing and the changes you want to see?
I want to see a world where everyone is welcome. You
Hmm.
know, it is so beautiful. Our diversity is one of the most beautiful things about humanity, and
Yes.
we're being prevented from engaging and getting to know, about our diversity because of the way society has been built.
Yes.
And it's so amazing. It really blows my mind. the people that I met, because I end up in a wheelchair and because I end up involved in the disability movement, I met people that are so different from me and they do things differently. And it's so incredible, like our capacity to adapt, to reinvent, and people were being prevented from enjoying and learning from, different points of view and everything else, because we have this segregation and discrimination, and some groups think they are better than others, and they
Yeah.
have, and they are entitled to more than others, or entitled to, that's what I want to see. I want to see this place where everyone is welcome and feel valued, and
I love it.
and price tags please be removed, because the worst thing is to have a price tag on you, and
On
saying that
somebody's life.
you're
Yes.
gonna cost, you cost too much. That was really, really difficult to be put a label.
Wow. Okay. My last question for you in this interview is there anything I should have asked you that I left out?
I don't know. That's a good question. I
Sometimes I
think
interview people and there is just a nugget of wisdom that I should have said. I don't want to lose the essence of who you are. If there's
I
anything else that I should have added, please contribute there.
I just want to, maybe what I want to add is that my mission now is one, of course, amplify the voices of people with disabilities. But the second thing is for every human being out there. I want to help people to change their mindsets about crisis, something bad, a tragedy, whatever bad happens to you. There is always a hidden opportunity out there. I remember there was this amazing woman in Brazil. She lost her son because of a car crash. He was 18, and she got a call in the middle of the night, and she lost her son. This woman because of this grief and because of her loss, she created a project that now educates young people, and she prevents thousands of deaths. You see people
Amazing.
that I have a friend, she's going through a horrible thing, with you see domestic violence or things like that. And then this
Yes.
person, because of that experience, creates a group that will support thousands of people, So you can always choose to signify your loss, your grief, your tragedy into
Yes.
something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
And when you do
And
that,
that is where your power really lies.
absolutely. And whatever you want to achieve in life, if you frame it in a way that you are at service, that you are helping others,
Yes.
Ubuntu, as I've learned with you,
Yeah.
it's inevitably, it will come to pass. You will achieve whatever you need. If what you want, you're helping others. So I really wanted to stay in New Zealand. And then I was thinking how I can do something that will allow me to stay here. And at the same time, I will be at service. And
To
that's when the
others.
idea of the petition, of the change the immigration policy,
Yeah.
came into place. And I've been
Absolutely
helping a lot of
wonderful.
people. I've been helping a lot of people with that. And it's amazing, And maybe the last thing that I want to say is that still in this space of loss, of grief, of bad things that happen to us in life, one of the things that really touched my heart was when you go through a really hard time, there is an amazing opportunity to count on the generosity of other human beings. And that is so beautiful. People from all over will give you a hand and try to help you.
Help you.
And you
Yeah.
wouldn't experience that if you weren't going through a hard time.
Yeah. That's so true. Wow, thank you so much for this interview. Again, you have enriched our stories. It's just an absolute honor to have met you. I'm excited to see what else you and I are going to be doing together.
Me too.
And I just want to encourage all of those women out there who have magical stories, who've had life experiences that somebody else can learn from. Please come onto our platform. We are looking for more inspiring speakers from all over the world as we change the world one woman at a time and one story at a time. So, Juliana, thank you again for this interview. Don't go away. And thank you, everybody who's tuned in. I'll be back again tomorrow with yet another amazing woman from a different part of the world. Bye for now.